regarding how we are going to tackle this situation with COVID, okay? And also with about the change of human mentality. So how we are going to prepare when the business pick up, okay? What kind of strategy that we will be having, okay? So I'm so sorry that my Japanese is really broken. So that's why I will use English for this sharing. But now, can I have a very light check? If my English would be clear to you, okay? Can you type yes in the chat box to make me feel that, oh yeah, my speed is all right? Okay, let me see if you ladies and gentlemen would be all right. Okay, thank you so much. I got quite a lot of yes. Thank you so much. ありがとうございました. Okay, well, but don't expect that. I think I will finish my Japanese there. Okay, all right. So let me dive into today's around 40 minutes. So in this 40 minutes, I intentionally prepare a lot of different content, okay? But then if you would like to ask any question, maybe you can type whatever language, okay, English, Japanese on the chat box, okay? Maybe I can read some Japanese and in the Q&A section, if I don't understand that question, maybe I will ask help from, let's say, Honda-san to translate a bit to me, then I will be able to answer your question. So be free to type whatever question that you have in the language that you feel comfortable. All right. With a little introduction of myself, I also would like to see a bit about the Hong Kong situation with COVID. How does it impact to the retailing and distribution industry? And under this impact, what is the change of the Hong Kong people's mentality? I think this would be a very interesting part because I can see that the majority will be the Japanese ladies and gentlemen, but I can also see some of the, let's say, the Hong Kong people's name. So I think you are also welcome to join me to share some of the Hong Kong mentality, your perspective. But then I think the very important tema, the very important content of today is to share with you two solutions that I prepared, okay? One of the solutions is related to compensation and benefits. As a lot of people mentioned, okay, Hong Kong people love the dollar sign. So I think this strategy would be very much important. But then if you look into the cursor, okay, I try to move a bit my cursor here, okay? So you see that I think the key strategy is moving from C&D to an engaging culture, from compensation and benefits to become an engaging culture. So this is something very important, and I would love to spend more time on this. But second strategy is all about talent development. 人才育成. So a lot of people will think about, oh, what kind of skill that we need to prepare them. We need to prepare them. I call it as future skill. All right. So later on, I would love to, share with you. In order to let you know that, so why I be able to share about this, topics of today, I just want to share a bit about myself because maybe some of you we met before, but yet a lot of you maybe we haven't met each other. So in order to let you know that why these Elvin Learn can share about these topics, because I would like to let you know that number one, starting from last month, I become 40 years old. And in this 40 years time, I've never got a long-term stay in any overseas country for studying or for work. So as 100% local, I share all the local citizen mind. Okay, so if you really want to know about some of the Hong Kong people mentality, I am really local. Okay, and number two, but then it's interesting for me to have some in with Japanese society. I don't know why my father sent me to Yaku Chimu, so a baseball team when I was 6 years old. And starting from then, every single Sunday, I need to play baseball with all the Japanese expatriate kids. They are the Japanese team, I'm the Hong Kong team. So I think my very first Japanese that I knew is a name. Okay, at that time, I don't know Japanese at all, but I got one teammate called Suzuki. So I flowed about Suzuki, and then just, it's actually my very first word of Japanese, all right? But after joining PERSOLKELLY Group in this 14 years time, my major passion is to research people engagement factor, why they love their job and why they hate their job. All right. So wish that I will be able to share all those experience that I got, give some relevancy to today's topics. Okay. Let's have a look. Under COVID, what kind of the impact that we have? I believe that you, ladies and gentlemen, is an industrial expert that you got information maybe somehow more than myself. So you see that, okay, for the number one, okay, let me put it a little bit backward. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, you see that for the number one, I just cut it from a local newspaper. The newest data of July is coming very soon. But then in June, comparing with the month before, the total revenue shrink is having 24% comparing with the month before, that means May. So you see about the retailing industry is really, really getting very, very severe. And amongst though, the watch and jewelry, and also the cosmetic, they particularly have a very, very big reduction of more than 50% of their sales revenue. I think that is highly impacted because of the Chinese tourists. And then you also see about the other data. So here is actually the other professional firm, okay, PwC, having a lot of the situation anticipation. When we look into China, China is the only one country in the world, okay? So in the world now we have, around 180 to 190 So registered economic unit. So we call it as kind of country. So China is the only one country aiming to strive for the positive GDP growth in 2020, this year. It's the only one country. So I just finished my seminar last week in Shanghai. Oh, of course, I'm in Hong Kong. But then that webinar is in Shanghai side. When I talk and communicate with a lot of the professional there, they mentioned that the current month, that means August at that time, okay, August has been striving back to the same level of the same month of the last year, 2019. So you see about that in the whole world, only China is with a very good anticipation of the economy. So then this may be a very big engine for the Hong Kong economic pickup in 2021. So what I would like to say from this kind of news is that currently, Hong Kong is very bad, particularly in the retailing and distribution industry. But then next year, we are anticipating that maybe because of this huge engine in China, Hong Kong would be in a very speedy pickup rate. So for now, all the employee is waiting to see about the next year. If the market is become much better, they might have a lot of opportunity to leave. And because of that, they are keeping their eyes on their employer to see whether their employers are treating them good or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, minasan, I think here is actually one of the conclusions that I know. Business is pretty much severe, it's very challenging. But if we are not putting the right focuses to let our employee feel that, even in tough time, we are also treating them well, in the next year, supposedly economy can become better, maybe we will lose them. So make sure that we don't lose about these strategic focuses. But before we talk about the strategy, what kind of strategy that we need to deploy, one thing that I would like to talk about is how about the current Hong Kong people mindset? There are two myths a lot of people are talking about. Number one, so every Hong Kong citizen would like to immigrate to the other country. It become a hot topic. So nothing about the political stance. When you try to have an ice-breaking conversation with any Hong Kong citizen right now, maybe you can start from, hey, do you plan to move overseas? Do you plan to immigrate? I think that would be a very fun but also hot ice-breaking topic that you'd be able to talk about. And number two, because of the working from home, from now on, every Hong Kong citizen, Hong Kong worker would love to just work from home. So here, I just would like to cite some of my insight towards these two things with you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, number one, so why Hong Kong people would love to go immigrating? I think here and there would be a lot of news because of the geopolitical, the situation change, because of the national security law. A lot of different scenario is going to be very much uncertain. Disregard about the challenge that you see that from the deck, about the segazi, the lifestyle, about the cultural shock. Seems Hong Kong people still having a very strong mind to move. I would like to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, so in your own understanding, okay, you can see from my PowerPoint deck that, okay, in this side. So you can type inside the chat box. Can you guess which would be the top 3 most popular country that Hong Kong people would love to go? Okay, so you see Australia, Canada, Japan, okay, and also New Zealand, Singapore, Taiwan, America, or UK. So can you just give your wild thoughts on the chat box? So let me have a feel. What do you think? Which country would be very much popular that Hong Kong citizen may want to go? Yeah, just try to give, oh yeah. I see that Okamoto-san, UK, Canada, any other wild thoughts? I think in order to understand about the retention strategy, we might need to have a certain understanding where would be the popular places and why that's going to be the popular places. So I see about Taiwan, still there would be talking about Canada, UK, Australia. Okay, any other thoughts? I think there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's just your perception, how much you understand about the Hong Kong people preferences. Okay, still we see about Taiwan, UK, Australia. All right. Here are some hard facts. So some hard facts that I would like to share with you, all right? So first of all, you see that if we talk about the top 3, it's still Canada, Australia, and Taiwan. So I guess you, ladies and gentlemen, are very, very much understanding about the Hong Kong situations. But then when you look into the absolute number, 2020 is still a bit uncertain, right? But then I think, you see that in last year time, already we have 29,000 Hong Kong citizens immigrate to different places. And the top 3 would be Canada, Australia, and Taiwan. And in my own very local person perspective, I already got 3 different families, their friends, they're planning to move to Canada. And then 2 families has been moved to Australia. So you see that there would be a trend. But then I think the implication question is, does it mean that all Hong Kong talents will move to the overseas country? And I would let you know that let's look in the history of the Hong Kong side. When we see about that, okay, so Hong Kong people, the immigration history. Traditionally, we kind of having this category. Canada, Australia, these would be the traditionally popular places for Hong Kong citizens to choose. No matter we are talking about now or moving back to the previous time, one of the peak for Hong Kong citizens to move out from Hong Kong is before 1997. All right, before the sovereignty is handed over to the China side, from UK. So at that time, a lot of family in 1990s, 1995, within these few years' time, all moved to those Canada and also about Australia. The reason why now Canada and also Australia are still popular because quite a number of Hong Kong citizens, they got the previous generation already moved there. They got relative, they got family. So that's why it's easier for them to overcome about the cultural shock. All right. And when you see about the other side, it's about the similarity. Hong Kong people feel more comfortable to live in Taiwan and Singapore. That's the reason why in this decade, this 10 years time, Taiwan, Singapore, they grow up a lot. And then for the dream kind of places, America and also UK is still the places, right? So that's why Hong Kong people, when they think that, oh, in the future, I want to be having a competitive edge, I need to move there for the study. And ultimately, Japan. But my own anticipation is Japan won't be very much popular because of the very special demographic, construct. Without knowing about Japanese language and culture, it's not easy to have the career landed there. So I think ultimately, I just want to see about history. In 1997, a lot of people, they also would have a trend to move at that time. But finally, the actual figure is not a lot. And starting from 2000, quite a lot of family, they are moving back to Hong Kong because when they found about the China economic development, maybe in Hong Kong, the advantage for the career development would be bigger. So that's why in view about the history, I don't think this time the moving out would become a real impact to the talent market. Then the next thing, when we talk about working from home, everyone wants to work from home. So I think this one, I don't need to spend a lot of time. The reason of that is, number one, you see about a smartphone, all right? So you already adopted onto the smartphone right now. I think a simple question is, can you go back to the traditional phone? It's not that easy. Once our ladies and gentlemen has been very much used to the use of Zoom, Teams, Google Meets, all right? So we believe more that we don't need to physically go to a place to meet each other because we can have a lot of virtual communication. So that's why when talking about, okay, moving on, in order to anchor, that means engage our Hong Kong workers. So working from home, or in a way to say, work flexibility, I don't think there is a debate. It's a must for us to adopt to. Several months ago, I got an interview with TVB, one of the local televisions, the station. So in the financial magazine, I talk about working from home, this new normal. So in this new normal is a challenge for the employer side for three things. Number one, the hardware support. Whether every single our employee will be able to be equipped with the right technology. But I guess this one is so much solvable. It's so much resolvable. That means it's not a problem. But number two, whether we be able to have a more modern way of performance management. What does it mean? Traditionally, we see people effort. We pay for people effort. That means if you showed up at 9 until 6, no matter what you do, we pay for your effort, or to be very honest, we feel more comfortable there. It doesn't correlate it to the performance, but that is a traditional norm. So how we be able to transform to be a modern performance management way, I think this is the other challenge. And ultimately, the third one would all about trust. I'm not saying that employer is having a problem of not trusting. And I also see that there would be a lot of news. Still remember, in March, when there are a lot of companies, they are having their working from home. One of the bank, their management trainee, they even just go hiking and even just put a picture onto the social media. How people can trust you, right? But I would say ultimately, for all those management people like you, ladies and gentlemen, I think you understand one thing is we trust to gain trust. We don't ask people to prove me how I can trust you. I can trust in order to gain your trust. So that's why moving on, in order to engage our Hong Kong new norm mentality. So people will move from Hong Kong to other overseas. I don't really think so. So we don't need to have a lot of pressure about that. But how we be able to adopt not working from home, don't misunderstand about that. It's working flexibility. I think this one is a must to be done. Okay? So if this background is all right, I would love to suggest two strategies to see whether that can be a little bit useful for the retailing and distribution industry. Number one, as I said, is all about a compensation and benefits case study. And in here, we would like to talk about, it's nothing just we want to pay them money. It's all about how we be able to engage them through a different way of thinking, of allocating money. And I understand that, oh yeah, in September, I'm going to have this very meaningful sharing with all the, the leader, business leader in this field. So immediately I call all my friends, my network in the retailing, distribution, and also even F&B industry. I try to get their voice. So here is the real voice. So one of my network working in a local retailing group, the HR manager said to me, "Hey, Alvin, cash is king. A better commissions plan and give monetary support even during the harsh time. The major reason why people leave were unsatisfied commission plan and staff relationship. So our firm is implementing basic salary plus commission with guarantee minimal amounts." So you know about that. Even though you have commission scheme, it doesn't help because they just can't earn anything. So for a lot of local retailing group, they definitely will put about a minimum guarantee amount on top of the basic salary. I think that is something not very new. But then the other group, the head of HR from a Chinese retailing and F&B group. So most of the restaurants are enforcing no pay leave arrangement today. And honestly, we also have. But my company bear as much as possible loss that we can suffer and request staff to have at least the least no pay leave compared with the markets. We hope that through these ongoing processes, staff will become more loyal and willing to stay. In 2019, staff still entitled to have discretionary bonus. Even the economy is going worsen because of the COVID-19 and also about the social movement. Our company just want to invest more in our people instead of saving money for the future. I think this is a very general mindset because not only about this Chinese group, I think our Japanese business leader now in this Zoom room, you also have a mindset that not to only keep money for the future, but try to let people feel that we are treating them well. But again, this is not strategic. We also look at the other one. So an MNC, a multinational luxury brand, is a really, really big brand. That definitely they have their shop on a Canton Road. Okay, so the head of HR said that under such a difficult time, we try our best to keep everyone with no pay cuts, no pay leave, no layoff, in which most of our team members really appreciate. And I'm trying to fight for salary increase, as also agreed by the management. For sure, we are allocating more to those key talents. So next year, my focus, that means that head of HR, will have reform a fair, transparent, and open-minded culture. So I think this is even more important than the money reward. So what we are going to do this moment is to keep everyone secured in their job. It's a very tough market. business plummets, no profit, but still we want to maintain everyone. I think you see about these three real voice, the Hondono core is really their voice. I think the conclusion is they don't want to save money, they want to spend money. But then I challenge one thing. This is whatever competitor they are doing. Does it really help you to retain your talents? So then from now on, ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you one much more strategic move. There is a case study from Hong Kong Broadband. So you know this, so a very prominent, a popular, nowadays a very popular, the telecommunication company. So they have, one scheme called co-ownership. And also about Hong Kong Broadband, there will be another local company. I would like to share about the case to you. How they are going to use strategic compensation and benefit policy to create engagement culture. Let's look at that. Hong Kong Broadband, the CEO called Nick Lai. Nick, okay, is a kind of famous celebrity right now in Hong Kong society, business society. Because in Hong Kong Broadband, they got 6,000 employees. And within that 6,000 employees, they got 9,000 of them joined this co-owner scheme. The meaning of that co-owner would be people need to invest money to really buy the share. And after that, everyone will be having an engaged culture. Okay, so I think you have to really understand it from Nick. And because Nick is going to tell in the real voice, so here is actually one of the interview that he done in April, kind of April this year, to talk about this co-ownership, plan. Let's have a look, just around like a minute time. It won't be very long, okay? So let me have a check about the audio, okay, before I share this. Just a moment. So I just want to make sure that the audio would be good enough, then you won't be listening to loud voices, okay? Just a moment. Okay, good. So here around 1 minute time, I'm sorry that will be in English, but I'm sure that will be very clear, okay?
So what we've done in our company is create a co-ownership structure where we have 900 of the 6,000 talents we have in the company are co-owners of the company. And on our name card, it says co-owner. If we do well as a company over a decade, those 900 people will do very well in terms of their family wealth creation. But the key difference between being a co-owner and a normal employee is a co-owner has to write the company a check to buy shares. So you have skin in the game. It's not a free ride, it's not a stock option. It's like a long-term a supercharged investment scheme that is linked to the performance of the company. So we care about this company.
Actually, the co-ownership thing, that's something I think a lot of people in the US and in the UK do not know about. Just for a second, explain how that came about. How did you come up with the co-ownership model and how did you implement it?
Well, we believe in management by alignment rather than management by order. So if you are fully aligned, the biggest problem in the kind of corporate world, I think, is the management agency issue, whereas management are incentivized differently to shareholders. Management want a bigger bonus at the cost of shareholders. We're the other way around. We are the shareholders. We create our wealth through ownership, not through our salary.
So you see that from this, completely the concept is really big. Management by alignment, but not management by instructions. And the traditional norm for business is manager. That means the key player in the business. We work basically for the benefit of the shareholder, all right? But then if the manager is working for the shareholder in which they are also shareholder, then you see about the trick. They are working for themselves. When we talk about ownership mindset, it's not a slogan, it's the real things. Because they are having that in their mind. And that is interesting that Nick is going to have a metaphor to ask about one question for the next video. Let's have a look about that. So what Nick is trying to say is, hey folks, think about that. What sort of things that you can do? What is the most simple things that you can do to make sure that the bridge can be built with the greatest safety? How we can make sure that when people build a bridge, the bridge is so safe to be used? This is a very interesting question. Let's continue about the video.
I'll ask you a very, very simple question. What's the easiest way to ensure a large bridge is built safely for the long term?
Well, I guess everyone's going to use that bridge. Make sure everyone has access to that bridge so that everyone has a vested interest in making it safe and making it work.
Yes, along that lines. You get the people who design, build, and maintain the bridge to live underneath the bridge with their families. Then you don't need to have rules about safety, about regulated safety checks, etc. If the people who build, maintain the bridge live underneath the bridge with their families, think about it, because there are actual natural conflicts of interest. The designer of the bridge may want to win bridge design awards, not to build the safest bridge, but wants to win accolades. The builder of the bridge, the construction company, wants to use the cheapest materials to maximize the profit. But the maintenance person just wants to do the tick marks to make the minimum regulatory commitments. These are all natural conflicts. But if you make them all live under the bridge with their families, you don't even need rules. That's what we do. We have 900 families living under our company, Hong Kong Broadband, the bridge.
Wow.
That's why when we work from home, we're not so worried about people skiving, right? About people not working. In fact, our people actually complain a little bit in that when they work from home, they're actually working a lot harder than working in the office. Because in the office, it's defined 9 to 5. At home, they're working 24/7.
Well, we see about that metaphor is actually a very interesting one. So how to build a bridge? The simple way to make the bridge to be the safest bridge in the world is to let all those people who built to pull their family to live underneath of the bridge. So I think don't underestimate about this metaphor. This metaphor is something very important to say that when in a company, we want high performer. We want high performer. We want aggressive person. We want people who have ambitions to be the best, right? But then that is called personal interest. Personal interest. The bridge designer just care whether he can get the best design awards. The procurement manager just care whether the lowest, the cheapest material can be in place that can make him hit his KPI. And then for different people, the construction worker, they just want to make sure that they don't have overtime work. They are not thinking as a whole, but they are just focusing on personal interest. And think about that. They are all high performer. They are all aggressive. But at the end of the day, the bridge is so not safe because at the end, the purpose is not aligned. It's not coded as engagement. All right. So I think Nick has been having this co-ownership model, which is pretty much making sense. All right. But then maybe some of you may think that, oh, my company is not a listed company in Hong Kong. So what sort of things I can do? So now I'm going to showcase you the other local conglomerate. A local big company, they also would have their retailing business. So as I said, after knowing that I would have chance to talk here, I immediately call everyone that I know and try to see what kind of strategy that they are using. And then this local conglomerate, that means a local big company, they have their business in retailing as well. They said that, oh yes, we also would like to adopt about the Hong Kong broadband co-owner model. But as a matter of fact, These can only work for the office worker, may not be working for our shop sales. So what they're doing, they steal about this formula. They change it a little bit. The whole scheme is like that. For every single shop front staff, if you are willing to invest, the amount is fixed. The amount is around like 2 months of your salary. And if you got that and then invest to the company for 3 years time, all right? So then in this 3 years time, what will happen? We will set our targets of every single year. And in that year time, if you hit the targets previously, when you hit the target, maybe let's say you will get 1 month bonus. Because you join this investment scheme, you will have a multiplier of time 1.5, for example. Then if we hit target, for the people who don't join the scheme, they will have 1 month, but you will have 1.5 months. And moving on for the second year, we are increasing the multiplier to become 2, 3, whatever, within that 3 years time. And in this 3 years time, if you want to quit from the company, your investment, you can't take it back. But company will not get it. Company will donate to the other non-profitable organization as your own selections. All right. So this is the scheme concept. I think when we look into Hong Kong broadband and this local conglomerate, here will be some of the learning points that we can see whether we be able to adopt into our organization. Number one, real investment is needed. Traditionally, maybe going back to your Japan headquarters, the concept originally is from Silicon Valley. It's called stock option, right? So company is not going to share you with the stock because at the very beginning, the stock is not very much high priced. But then stock option, that means we guarantee you that in the future, when you would like to buy our stock when it's growing up, you can use about the current price. That means you don't need to have a high price. You use a cheap price to buy our stock in the future. That is called stock option. It's not a real stock. It's not a real stock sharing. But with a lot of research, we found that when people are not investing their money, they just don't care. They just don't care. So that's why Hong Kong broadband, Nick mentioned that employee need to write up a check, really give it to the company. And that local conglomerate, they are saying that the staff need to invest around 2 months of their salary onto the scheme. You see about that, all right? Real investment is important. And second point that you see that it's a scheme normally. The first year, the market is still bad. We cannot guarantee a very high return, all right? So that's why we don't need to use a high return, which harm our profit and loss, our P&L. But then we are attracting them to invest in a longer run. 3 years time, the multiplier can be higher later, all right? So you see that a very clever way to think. So next year, the tough situation will be still there. So we cannot return you a lot. But then with the growth in the future, then we can reward you better in the future. And finally, again, as I said, engagement, ownership is no longer just a slogan. When people really have the right C&B investment in their own company, they will have the real ownership mind together with this company. All right. So this is a solution, is a strategy, is a case study that we found that from strategic C&B, how it can contribute to the engaging culture. All right. So apart from C&B, I think the Japanese community, I love it a lot. The reason of that is Japanese management mindset will always have the investment on HR. So the 人材育成 is actually one thing that how we can let them grow with the right future skill. To make it short, I would rather introduce you that there is a gap. There is a gap that we found. What is the gap? The gap is in the ever-changing markets. What every single company they need the management, what you need is every employee, they would love to raise their hand to say, hey boss, I think we need to change like this. Hey boss, we want to change like that. You want your employee to raise a hand to speak out because they are the closest, 一番近い, the most closest to the VOC, the voice of customer, right? So you want them to speak up about the idea. However, employee, they always think that, oh no, my boss may not want me to say too much. My title is too small. I don't have a say. Here is actually a gap. So the future skill, one of the very key words that we are trying to research a lot is called as intrapreneurial. Hey, Elvin, is it a wrong spelling? Intrapreneurial. No, we don't know about that. We just know about entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial is Kyoka, right? So we see that for a lot of boss, they have the entrepreneurial mindset. They take risks. They have innovations, right? But then intrapreneurship doesn't mean that you need to be a boss. What you need to be? You need to be the owner of your idea. Not the owner of a company, but the owner of your own idea. This is what we embrace as intrapreneurship. So here, I would love to see about your company to have a little polling with you, all right? So moving on, I'm going to give you a polling question. And the polling question will be writing on the intrapreneurial elements. So allow me to read through about the English. Intrapreneurials refer to employees within a company who have an entrepreneurial spirit and are willing to take responsibility to develop new products or services which create value to the company and initiate advancement in business. So here you see that they should have proactiveness, innovation, risk-taking mindset, and also sense of ownership. So you see that these four elements will be very important for the entrepreneurial, all right? So what I would like to do is to get the voices of today, all right? So I see that we have a lot of management of a lot of different retailing and distribution company, all right? So you see a polling box right now, all right? So what you need to do is, you see, okay, allow me to explain first. You see about the number 1 question, number 2 question, number 3 and 4. You need to scroll down and see about that. And for each question, you see about proactiveness, the first important element. And then the second one will be about innovation here. Okay, you see about the second question with innovation. Then third one will be about risk-taking. The fourth question will be about sense of ownership. I would love to see about for your company, whether you seeing these elements as an important element or not. 1 is not very important. 6 is very important. All right. So can I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, try to give your vote onto the polling boxes to see for your own company whether you see, all right, so these 主体的な行動, proactiveness, is it important? If that is 重要 important, please press 6 or 5 or 4 according to the actual situation. So number 1 is about proactiveness. Number 2 is all about innovations. Number 3 will be risk-taking. Number 4 will be sense of ownership. So you can press about the voting boxes to let me see for your company. Wow, a lot of you are now voting, and the result is, wow, some of them is a bit out of expected. All right, so we will have around like a minute quiet time, making sure that you will be able to rate. So 1 is not very important. 6 is very important. This is a scale of that, the scale of that. I mean, your perception is okay. There's nothing that, oh, I cannot represent my company. No, I mean, as a leader, how we see our company. So how they treat this element, the importance of that. All right, so we will have the last 10 seconds, and then we are going to share the finding. Okay, almost the time. All right, so I end the polling right now and try to share with you the answer. All right, so what you can see is for number 1, the proactiveness. This kodo. So what is the proactiveness? I think this is something very much majority. 67% feel that is number 6. Oh, so much important. It's very important. And then we also see that, okay, for the innovation, that would be comparing with the proactiveness slightly less, but still the majority, 33% 5, 33% 6. Risk-taking, okay? I think this one is not very much being, stressed. And then we see that 4 would have 33%, 5 would have another 33%. And finally, we see about the sense of ownership. This is also one of the very big one. 39% thinking that is so much important. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, what I can see is, right. So in this research, you found that, well, when comparing these 4, proactiveness and sense of ownership, these 2 would be very much important, and particularly proactiveness. So how we are going to train them up. So now allow me to introduce you a research on the future skill. So here is actually the future skill that I wish that you will be able to take a deeper look. And moving on, previously we talked about, oh yes, we need to, let people, have the negotiation skill. We need to have people to have the presentation skill, etc., planning skill. But now it is all defined by these 6. Priority skill. When you want people to do something new, they also should have their core business. All right. So that's why, taking an example, Google. Have you ever heard about the formula, the ratio of 80-20? 80% of the time, people are just doing whatever they should do. But 20% of the time, they would be able to do whatever they feel like to do, creating. So I think for a lot of companies, we don't have this 80-20 rule, but we want our staff to be innovative, but they should have a good sense of prioritization. 仮説力, hypothesis. How they be able to see through one thing to find out the logic of the other thing to guess about the future. Storytelling. Traditional presentation is focusing on the head part to let you understand something. But the modern way of storytelling is also engaging your heart part to drive you to do something. Not to mention a lot, leadership. Emotional intelligence. Well, I think a lot of people think that for entrepreneurial, because there will be a lot of rejection. So that's why they need to be very much emotionally intelligent, not to feel down easily. But I think for entrepreneurial, we also would have a lot of idea, but think about that. Would the boss buy this in immediately? I don't think so, right? So we need to have a very high EI, emotional intelligence, make sure that we can master our emotion well. And finally, in the new era, media is something very important, personal branding, all right? But then training people's skill would be one of the things that we need to do. And ladies and gentlemen, I think for a management perspective, we also need to create a culture. When people speak up their mind, we need to create them with a psychological safety. And if you are interested, here's actually one book that you can take it as a reference by Simon Sinek. Leaders Eat Last. It's not only saying that leaders need to train up our active listening. It's not only talking about in a meeting, we need to speak at the very last point, okay? But also saying about if you are hungry as a leader, are you willing to eat the last? That provides the best sense of safety, the psychological safety for your people. They will feel safe to do good for you. So I just want to advocate one thing, that don't just try to train their future skill. But if your company are not creating the psychological safety, it's not easy. My final words, look into these two strategies. One is how we be able to transform the engaging culture via the strategic C&B. The other one is before the market is going to be picking up, we have to prepare our talent with the right future skill. When you look into the whole things, moving back to our work task and think, oh yeah, how should we start? I think a lot of new things that we need to do. So first of all, we need to change, right? But I think the very first thing that we need to do is to change ourselves. If we don't change, but just thinking about how the C&B strategy can be changed, how our talent can be changed, it's just not making a lot of sense. All right? So thank you very much for listening to this a little bit long speech, and wish that can give you a certain insight.